Welcome to pencil tutorial number 5 in Blender. The next part of our pencil tutorial is to create an eraser at the end. We're going to do that by creating a regular box, subdividing it a couple of times, and applying a subsurf modifier on that, giving us a nice control cage to control the curves. What I've done is I've taken a picture of the end of a pencil and an eraser so we can get a good reference as to how this thing really looks. So the first thing we need to do is load that up. I want to load it into the right ortho window down here on this side. So the first thing we do is we hit N for properties. Okay, so we brought up the properties. To load an image as a background image, we need to scroll all the way down here, and we need to turn on background images right here. Okay, so what that does is that gives us a place to add an image. What you do is you hit add image, and that gives you a requester down here on this side. So it's set for not set right now. You hit the fly out, and that gives you some more choices. Right now it's set for image instead of movie clip, and that's fine. So let's click open at the bottom. That gives us a file requester. My image is located on the desktop, and the image is called pencileraser.jpg. We'll double click that and we'll load it up. Okay, so it's real subtle, but you can see it loaded the picture in all 4 views. The picture is obviously way too big, so we have to scale that down. First, I want to put it in only this view, because that's the only view that really applies to what we want. Okay, so I scroll down here like this. I've already gone ahead and figured out the dimensions that I need, because it takes some time to figure out how to scale this thing down and put it in the right position. Okay, so I'm going to turn the opacity up all the way here. And then size is at 5.0. With experimentation, I found out the size is actually 0.015. That's what we want. So I'll double click in here and I'll just enter that by hand. 0.015. Okay, and that brought the size way down here. And then the location is at negative 0.63. Okay, now I put it into position. It's looking real good. If I want to really see it against the mesh pretty well, if you put it on front, it's like it's taking panes of glass and it's mapping the image onto a pane of glass and putting it on top of our model. So that's why changing the opacity lets you see through it and gets you a really good idea of what's going on underneath. So the opacity slider is what does that. Okay, so now let's go back out into quad view. I don't really need the views in all the views here. So we check it out in the panel under axis here where it says all views. I know that it's the right view, so I click on that and I just go over and select right. Okay, so now it's only in this view down here. Next thing is to go ahead and create the eraser object, which is a mesh. We're just going to use a cube on that and apply our modifier to it. So Shift A to add a new mesh. We're going to add a cube. So let's use our quad views here to line this thing up and get it into position. Okay, good for now. Okay, let's put it on a wireframe view. All right, first step is we need to subdivide this thing properly. Really, only one set of subdivision is needed, so it'll be just subdividing it vertically and horizontally a couple of times. Well, just once along all 3 axes. So we need to get into edit mode, which is tab, And over on the side, we're looking for subdivide. We'll just hit that once, and you can see that it subdivided it nicely. That's perfect for what we need. But we do need one more row along the bottom half here. So I'm just going to use the knife tool like before. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer here. We'll put it back out into object mode. Hit the period key on our numpad to zoom in closer. Okay, now let's use the knife tool to get that done. Back into edit mode, tab. We'll deselect everything. And I think I'm going to turn down my image opacity a little bit more so I can see it better. Yeah, okay. So we're going to use the knife tool. It's just K on the keyboard. Remember to change the cut through, we need to turn that on. So we'll hit Z on the keyboard, and then we should be able to draw a line right through. Left click and drag, release, line it up, and then left click one more time to activate the tool, and then enter to turn it off. And just double check real quick and make sure there's a brand new row of vertices going along all the way around the model. Okay, looks fine. We'll hit A to turn off the tool. I'm going to turn the opacity up a little bit more on the image in the background here. Okay, that's fine. Maybe I'll put it on back. Yeah, let's do that. So it's nice and bright. Okay, fine. Fantastic. Okay, next we're going to get back out into object mode here. We need to apply our modifier. The modifier is the wrench tool at the top of the header here. Just click that once. Click and hold, and then go down to subdivision surface and release. Okay, so that starts our subdividing process. We're looking at a preview version of the subdivision that's happening with it. As you can see, it's turning all the straight lines into curves, but the curves are really not smooth enough. We need to get this thing a bit smoother. Down here, this is a Catmull-Clark algorithm that's been put on here, so we want to keep that selected. What we're looking at is subdivision level 1 here. That's what's in the view button on this side. Down here too, that's what will actually render out when we go to render. I'm going to make the view match the render. So that's actually level 2, and that's a lot better. That's curvy and nice and looking pretty good. So I'm going to keep it like that, and we'll go with that. All right, so I'm going to hit tab on the keyboard to get back into edit mode. You can see the control cage is still here. It's a very low polygon object, but it's giving you a preview of what it's going to do when it goes to render. It's going to subdivide it more and put these curves in here, which is great. It's a great, great thing by my good buddy Catmull and Clark. All right, so first thing, I want to get rid of some of the geometry, but before I do, I want to hide the rest of the pencil because we really don't need it. At this point, I'm going to hit tab, get back into object mode, press Z to go back into smooth shade. I'm going to right click and select the pencil. I'm not going to delete it though, I'm just going to hide it. That's H on the keyboard. Makes our lives a little bit easier. Okay, back into edit mode. We have to select our object first and then do edit. What I want to do is I want to get rid of these 4 faces that are on top. So let's just zoom in here. Okay, we need to put it in face select mode. Right there. That gives us our 4 faces. I'm going to select them all and get rid of them. Hold down Shift to add to your selection. Right click, select all 4, hit X, and then we're going to delete faces. There we go. Now that looks fine. We'll go back into edit mode. Now we can use our control points to quickly get this thing into shape. I'm going to select some of these points and drag them down. So I'm going to use the box tool, and I think I'm just going to select these 3, which is actually all the way. Okay, so I've got a couple of vertices selected here. I'm just going to drag them up. Sometimes it's easier just to grab it one vertex at a time, or one row of vertices at a time. So I'm just going to quickly try to get in here, get us a good match. And it's shaping up pretty well. Okay, that's fine. Along the top row, along the top view here. Do Control Alt Q to maximize. We need to get some of these points and drag them in the middle here, because we know that our eraser is not really square, it's supposed to be round, more round. So I'll do B for box select. I'll just drag these whole rows and make this a lot more round. Let's see, I selected. Okay, looks like we're just about there. So let me get back on the quad view and see how we're looking. Could use a little bit of tweaking. That's a favorite word in our industry, is tweaking. Everybody loves that word. So maybe I'll just scale it a little bit. We'll do scale along the y-axis. Whoa, hello. That always happens. Scale Y. Squeeze that out a little bit more. And maybe just scale along all axes a little bit more. All right. The rest is just playing with, and that's something you would need to do to get it to be exactly the way you want it. But I think that's fine for now. It's a nice rounded shape. And, you know, maybe I'll take these corners in just a little bit more too, because that seems a little bit square for me. Anyway, this is something you can play with all day. It's a really fun thing to do because you can do so much with it. If you had to use just the your faces and the polygons and the vertices from a subdivided object that was already this complicated, it would be a lot harder. So that's looking really good. Let's see. Next thing I want to do is add the material to it. So let's get back out. I want to put it back into smooth shade mode. All right. So yeah, it's looking pretty good. We just need to go ahead and add our material real quick. So we click the material tab up top here. We're going to add our socket and then put some data in the socket. And we're going to call this pencil eraser. And here's a great trick. I'm going to first, before I add the color to it, I'm going to change this. I'm going to put the image back on the front. Okay. Bring that to full opacity. Opacity means transparency, so it's full opacity means you can see through it. I mean, you can't see through it at all. Completely transparent would be you can completely see through it. Just in case you didn't know that. All right, so anyway, we go to diffuse here. We click that for the color requester here, but instead of clicking on a color, we can do, excuse me, the eyedropper tool, which is a sampler. You click that once, and you go to a section of the eraser that you really like here. It's a pretty light. That seems kind of dark to me. What's great is you can keep doing it over and over until you find a good one. There's something pretty bright. All right, well, as you can see, it's there's all kinds of different colors in an eraser in an image because we have lots of different pixels to choose from. It's a grainy image, and plus, it's not a completely uniform material in reality. So there we have it. We've got our eraser done, and it's molded to look approximately like we want. And then we've got a surface on there that looks fairly decent. We can always go back and change that too, which we will. Oh, one more thing. It's always the discipline. You've got to go in to the outliner and change the name of your object that you're working on. Okay, eraser. Looks fantastic. All right, we'll see you on the next side.